Type in the comments the last app you opened on your mobile phone. What text appears on the screen? In this video, Molly Murray, a content strategist, is going to give us a small insight into this process. Molly, take it away.
Hi, my name's Molly. I'm from Dearborn, Michigan, which is a suburb just outside of Detroit. But I live in Valencia in Spain. I lived in Spain and around Europe for the last almost 9 years. I was an English teacher for many years, but for the last 4 or so, I've moved back into working in marketing, communications, content creation, social media, stuff like that. And my most recent kind of new job role is in UX content strategy, working with a product design team. The question, what is content strategy, is super difficult to answer because it really depends on the organization that you work for and what kind of content they produce. I'll focus pretty specifically on what I do and UX content strategy, or also UX writing. I work with a product and engineering team who are designing and building the digital products that our customers, that our users use. So just like any other app that you would use on your phone or business software that you would open on the web, we're designing how that looks visually, what the interaction's like, and the content that they see. So the biggest part of my job is the words part, the language part, the communication part. When you're using an app, that company is or should be communicating with you in some way so that you know what to do. And you know what services they offer, and you know how to buy something or book something, what have you. The strategy part of it is figuring out what the style and voice of our product is and how to apply that and how to scale that so that anybody that's writing for the product knows how to use it. So you can't tell that 20 different people are actually the voice behind the app, for example. And also down to the specifics of working with the teams on the projects they're working on the new parts of the app, on improvements, thinking about what content users need to see and how best to communicate something, and what exact words we choose for really specific things. How do we tell somebody there's an error, and how do they deal with that, and what does a button say, and what notification gets pushed to their phone? At the end of the day, it's a writing discipline as well. I get to work on really interesting questions of how we localize the product, right? So everything that we do, we're creating a product in Spanish for users in Spain, but that's getting downloaded and used in countries all over the world in lots of different languages. So how do we convert it to another language? Is it still usable? Is it still good? Do they still understand it? So anything that really touches or has to do with the words that we use in designing those products and making decisions about content, communication, words, all of that falls into my job in content strategy. The company I work for is called Jeff. It's a startup based here in Valencia. Originally it was a laundry services app. So people could download our app, get like a subscription to have their laundry picked up, washed and ironed, dropped back off at their house. And it would go to their like local physical Mr. Jeff laundromat run by one of our franchise partners. Now what's cool is that Jeff is expanding into lots of different types of services. So imagine lots of different kinds of typical like local businesses that you use in your neighborhood, where at least in some capacity you probably go to the physical place, right? So for example, the 2 new ones that have opened are beauty salons, Beauty Jeffs, and fitness clubs, Fit Jeffs. So all of those tools that those small business owners are now using to run their deaf business. My team designs those. And for their customers, like the end consumers, we have an app where they can book subscriptions or classes or go get their hair done or whatever, and kind of manage those kind of like daily routines and common tasks and stuff in the same way that you would like use Netflix or Spotify or Amazon. So like the kind of the convenience of a digital product, but with like the physical element of like local physical businesses in your neighborhood. And then obviously our app and the tools that they're using to run their business are connected so that we can help like the local business owners be able to take advantage of technology to connect with their clients, which maybe would normally not be realistic for a small beauty salon that opens on its own to create its own app for customers to come in and get their hair done. Advice for English teachers. It's been a while, but this is fun. So I think my biggest piece of advice would be to kind of look at yourself as a content creator. That's kind of what I did a lot of times with my background in communications and content and marketing and stuff. I would kind of approach each lesson of like, what's the best way to present something in a way that's attractive to my audience? And lots of times that would end up in different lessons coming from books, movies, television, YouTube, news articles, current events. You can make a lesson out of pretty much anything, and they can be really fun, and it mixes things up, not just for students, but for you, because it can get boring to be in the book all the time. And second, the thing that pops into my head first is what was most difficult for me to learn when I was a teacher, and it was to embrace the silence sometimes and not always try to be talking and giving more instructions. And sometimes students just need time to think, and that's fine. And it's more awkward for you than it is for them. So just be quiet for another minute. I think my favorite part, or I guess just the most noticeable for me, would be the ow sound, right? The how now, brown cow. I'm not even going to attempt to do it because I can't. I have not practiced, and I know it won't come out right. But Alistair, you can do it.
Hi, now, brown cow.
That sound for me is the most characteristic, I guess, about the Northern Irish accent. My accent, American, obviously. I have a Midwest, Michigan accent. There's lots of different varieties of a Midwest accent, which you can tell in kind of different ways that we pronounce certain vowels. Mine is quite nasally. One of the most common words that people use to imitate my accent would be like the word mom, M-O-M, because in Michigan you'd hear people pronounce it kind of almost like an A, like mom. That sound is very common. We pretty much don't pronounce T's like anything unless it's the beginning of a word, I guess. People would be familiar with comparing how British and American English, we say water. Water sounds like a D, or we just kind of don't say it at all. So that's very common in the Midwest to not pronounce T's like that in the middle of a word. I heard the other day somebody on a television show say potato, which is another, for me, a super common. I've definitely heard lots of people say potato or tomato. Another interesting one is, so the word mountain, for example, which I just had to really focus to pronounce that T in the full ending of the word. In Michigan, we would say mountain, with our tongue, that sound just covers the end of the word there. And in general, we really like mash words together in certain phrases to like talk faster, I guess. A good example would be I might say something like, I'm going to go to work now. I'm going to go to work now. It's just, I'm gonna. Don't ask me how anybody is supposed to understand all those separate words, especially a non-native English speaker. So I sympathize with anyone trying to understand a person from the Midwest talking that fast. Those are a couple of good examples of how it's unique and definitely different from a Northern Irish accent. This will come as no surprise after everything I've just talked about, all of the writing and languages and content. I'm just really passionate about communication skills, whether it's written, spoken, personal, professional, in one language, in another language. It's the common theme in everything I've done, in all of my work. And I think it's hugely important to be able to express yourself, to express an idea, to get a message across to another person or to an audience. Yeah, I think it's a super fascinating skill industry. It's something that everybody needs to know how to do to some degree or another. And we take it for granted, and it's actually super difficult to be a good communicator. So yeah, it might seem kind of general, but communication skills all around.
Communication is key. A huge thanks to Molly for appearing on the channel. Now, to find out some differences between British English and American English, watch this playlist, or to continue with the Q&A series, click here.